The Spam of Vegasroit by Richard Gessner. A hunk of spam the size of Jupiter has supplanted the Earth. The spam is an imperial sponge, soaking up the world's oceans, absorbing the continents, and growing the temperate desert suburb of Vegasroit, which hangs off the luncheon meat like a neon satellite appendage. The spam glistens, a faded industrial pink chunk, casting massive pork byproduct shadows, oozing with bubbling gels, shimmering in cloudy blue halos of sodium nitrite, emanating from the timeless, slippery planet. Millions of cars have been driven into the spam's surface over the millennia by countless unknowing kamikaze drivers, flooring their gas pedals to take a shortcut to the spam's core. The spam is spiked with cars of every make: Pontiacs, Buicks, Cadillacs, Lincoln Continentals, Volvos, Trans Ams, Alfa Romeos, Olds Cutlass Supremes, Pintos, T-Birds, Ferraris, limousines, Jaguars, Corvettes, Mitsubishis, Isuzus, Mercury Cougar XR7s, Saabs, Dusters, BMWs, Peugeots, Hondas, Cheetahs, Firebirds, Rebels, Datsuns, Thunderbirds, Edsels, Mercedes-Benzes, Roustabouts, etc. are projecting from the surface of the luncheon meat like multicolored metallic quills. An aerial view of the spam is a mosaic of back bumpers, fenders, windows, trunks, and tires, speckled with license plates. The long, fossilized drivers who smashed through their windshields ages ago are embedded in the spam just beyond their steering wheels, dashboards, and front bumpers. The mosaic of car spikes are linked by a vast web of bubblegum, stretching infinitely over the expanse of rear bumpers, winding its way through tire treads, trunks, and fractured chassis, curling around and reflecting in the mirrors of the bumpers where it sizzles in the salty neon air of Vegasroit. Here and there, a stalactite of congealed butter hangs off a bumper, bubbling over at its narrowmost tip with the clogged blood vessels of many a Vegasroitian. Vegasroit is a hybrid of Las Vegas and Detroit, a homogenized suburb of identical split-level box houses built from the crumbled and reprocessed remains of car factory assembly lines, hotels, motels, gambling casinos, nightclubs, bars, instant divorce agencies, and porno theaters. In place of the former Earth's extinct vegetation is a desert of broken glass, cotton candy, fiberglass sand, speckled with tumbleweeds of wool, fallen prematurely from flocks of aging pink wrinkled lambs wandering against the orange-gray landscape. On the front lawn of each house is a lawn jockey, holding up cans of aluminum keys once used to open cans of spam when it was packaged in cube-shaped metal containers in the old days. The lawn jockeys are testaments to the age of gluttony, quaint kitsch relics of a bygone age, but also contemporary talismans and reminders of the inevitable exodus of which no Vegasroitian can escape. The Vegasroitians stay locked up in their houses all day long, shielding themselves from the frequent tornadoes and dust storms, killing anyone caught outside, blowing the sand through the mucous membranes of the storm victims, gutting their digestive tracts in a vortex of windy surgery. Because the air of Vegasroit is so salty, the Vegasroitians have evolved into a race of sugar addicts in order to forget the monotonous taste of salt which they inhale with every breath. Their giant refrigerators are stuffed with candy, cakes, ice cream of every flavor and variety, which they eat while watching an endless series of bald baby lamb cartoons. The lambs losing their wool, which runs on every station of their color TVs. Millions of Vegasroitians are burrowing into the spam at the gluttony rush exodus, eating away at the exposed areas of meat between the car spikes. During the gluttony rush exodus, each Vegasroitian has taken the key from his lawn jockey as a good luck charm to guarantee a safe trip to the Spam's core in quest of manifest destiny. The Spam has different weather zones: Arctic meat locker zones for rotting and rotting carrion tropical zones, windy porous Tierra del Fuego zones, temperate tundra zones, Scandinavian tropical rainforest zones, Hawaiian Island tourist zones, African Atlantis zones full of aquatic vultures swimming in schools through pools of gelatin springs running throughout the planet. Over several generations, the Spam settlers adapt to the climatic conditions of their respective zones of luncheon meat. The Arctic Spam settlers develop hard metallic teeth to chew through frozen meat. The tropical Spam settlers losing their teeth, which are superfluous, while chewing through soft, warm pate, which has the consistency of baby food. The tropical Spam settlers develop antibodies to protect them from germs and kitten-sized maggots dwelling in the carrion of their swampy meal. Amongst the Spam settlers is a renegade Johnny Appleseed, who rides a motorcycle blazing ahead of the slow mouth-eaten paths of his colleagues, invading all the zones of Vegasroit and planting seeds in the furrows left by the tracks of his bike in a vain attempt to reestablish the extinct vegetation into the Spam. The sound of a million mouths chewing away towards the core reverberates throughout the Spam, causing the gels in the tropical carrion rainforest zones to slug down the porous walls. The Spam settlers pass a swallowed-up car submerged 100 miles into the luncheon meat. A Davy Jones meat locker spike sunken further in than all the other cars. The car is a white Corvette bursting with a mummified teenage couple entombed in the blue-hued mosaic of their shattered tinted windshield, of which they passed through when the car crashed with a thud. The rear-view mirror has plunged through the couple's faces, gouging their faces and pituitary glands, merging their heads together in an interlocking shattered skull formation. The aluminum rim and base of the rear-view mirror is rusted from the parched, cracky swamp of the couple's long, fossilized, conflated brain tissue, staining the mirror and dimming the reflection of a white rubber poodle. Young love's last uniting good luck charm, acting as a foil to their fate. It takes the Spam settlers several generations to reach the core. On their journey, they die and give birth, running the life cycle, turning the meat gullies of their mouth-eaten tunnels into waystation bassinets. The children born inside the Spam grow up knowing only the sound of their parents' endless chewing, ringing in their ears from birth to death. Consequently, a generation gap develops between the parents and children because the parents are always telling stories about life back in old Vegasroit, waxing nostalgic about the mountains of candy in their refrigerators, telling boring homilies about the hard life of living through broken glass, cotton candy, fiberglass tornadoes and dust storms, which blew away the lederhosen on the lawn jockeys onto the lambs and blew the tumbleweeds of wool through the TV screens. The Spam settlers passed through mausoleum shopping malls, a mirage of an aurora borealis laced with a ghost of photosynthesis past. Gangs of teenagers rebelling against their parents, impeding the journey by refusing to eat. Mercenaries slaying each other in the competitive rush to the Spam's core. The ozone layer of Vegasroit has disappeared. The settlers burrowing into the Spam escape the sun's radiation only briefly, which kills the suburb's inhabitants before reaching the age of 25. Over the millennia, the settlers evolve into a race of eternal beings from the sodium nitrite in their diet. The once harmful preservative, thought to cause cancer, is an antidote for the sun's radiation, a heavenly elixir, putting an end to all mortality and gloom. Nevertheless, the settlers become factionalized during their travels. The Arctic Spam settlers, who work the hardest while chewing, resent the tropical Spam settlers, who glide through the swamp of their gooey pate effortlessly. Upon reaching eternity, there is an increase of barrenness in the Spam settlers. As they continue on their journey, they come to a huge meat spring of ocean water, filled with thousands of Las Vegas showgirls, Detroit automobile workers, gamblers, pimps, whores, go-go girls, casino owners, slot machine repairmen, hotel and motel entrepreneurs, and forgotten ne'er-do-well hangers-on of long-defunct nightclub scenes. The crowd is engulfed in an aquatic confectionery orgy, smearing melted candy all over each other while locked in a chain of pelvic embraces. Some of the settlers join the orgy, while the other, more prudent settlers continue on their journey without a second thought. Still others are deeply offended by the decadent waste of candy which they think has been stolen from their own refrigerators to be used in the orgy. The orgy watches a pregnant, carcinogenic housewife glowing in an elixir of sodium nitrite at the far end of the meat spring.